You ever wonder why that stubborn belly fat just refuses to budge? Or maybe why you feel, I don't know, less energetic as the years go by?
Yeah, and how stress seems to hit differently, harder maybe than it used to.
Well, what if a big part of that puzzle, maybe the key piece, comes down to understanding and managing just one single hormone?
That's precisely the question we're digging into today. We've been looking at some material that really focuses on this one hormone, and it connects it to all those things you just mentioned. You know, where you store fat, how you feel as you age.
So, welcome everyone to the deep dive. Our goal today, our mission if you like, is to pull out the most practical, useful stuff from the material you shared about cortisol. It's the body's main stress hormone. There's just so much info out there on hormones, right? It can get super confusing. But we want to cut through that noise and find some real clarity.
And honestly, the insights this material offers about cortisol, they're pretty impactful. Basically, cortisol is a stress hormone. Simple as that. It's made by your adrenal glands, little glands sitting right on top of your kidneys. And the levels shoot up whenever you feel stressed. Could be a real danger or, you know, just a looming deadline, even a tough chat.
Right. So stress goes up, cortisol goes up. Seems straightforward. But the material draws a really clear line here. Constantly high cortisol is directly linked to putting on belly fat.
Exactly. It essentially tells your body, hey, store fat right here around the middle. That's often that visceral fat, which isn't great for health.
And then there's the aging connection, which I found fascinating. It involves another hormone, growth hormone.
Yes. Growth hormone. People sometimes call it the anti-aging hormone, though it's more about repair and regeneration. And the key thing is, growth hormone levels naturally drop off quite a bit as we age. They tend to bottom out around, say, age 50 or so.
Okay, hang on. So growth hormone goes down. What does that mean for cortisol? Does cortisol go up then?
Well, it's more about the balance, because growth hormone isn't around as much to sort of counterbalance cortisol. Cortisol's relative effect can become stronger. It's not always that cortisol levels themselves skyrocket, but the system loses that buffer.
So the ratio changes. Less growth hormone means cortisol has more sway, relatively speaking, as you get older. That's a really key point from these sources.
It really is.
And it kind of points the way, doesn't it? Yeah. If boosting growth hormone helps lower cortisol, then maybe focusing on things that naturally boost growth hormone is the strategy.
You got it. That's the main lever the material talks about. Now, growth hormone, it's made in the pituitary gland up in the brain, and it does most of its work through signals to the liver. But here's the really interesting part.
It's most active while we sleep, isn't it?
Exactly. Sleep isn't just downtime, it's prime time for growth hormone release and activity. That's why getting enough good, natural sleep, not drug-induced, but real sleep, is presented as probably the single most powerful thing you can do for cortisol.
Wow. So sleep really is number one.
More restorative sleep leads directly to more growth hormone, which helps push cortisol levels down. It's like foundational.
Okay, sleep is the bedrock. And the material also mentions something called IGF, insulin-like growth factor. How does that fit in?
Right, IGF. It's another powerful hormone, very similar to growth hormone, actually. The liver makes it, mostly in response to growth hormone signals.
Okay.
And IGF is involved in growth, repair, fat burning. And crucially, it helps manage blood sugar levels when you're not eating. So think insulin handles sugar after you eat, but IGF is more active in the background, especially when you're fasting, like overnight during sleep.
Okay. So when you're not digesting, IGF is busy regulating fat burning and blood sugar.
Exactly. But here's the conflict the sources highlight. If you're constantly snacking, greasing all day long, you keep feeding your body, keeping insulin kind of active. That constant input makes it harder for your body to switch into that state where IGF and growth hormone really get triggered effectively, unless, you know, your sleep is absolutely perfect.
So grazing kind of messes with this whole system, which leads to the idea about changing how we eat.
Yes. The material strongly suggests limiting your eating window. Aim for maybe 2 or 3 distinct meals a day. Try to have fewer snacks or none at all in between.
Right.
That gives your body those important periods of not eating. And that's when IGF can do its job properly, which supports growth hormone too. They work together, really, to help keep cortisol in check.
Okay, so number 1, prioritize natural sleep. Number 2, structure your eating. Avoid constant grazing to support that GH and IGF system. What else? What other things can we actively do?
Getting regular sun exposure comes up as surprisingly powerful for lowering cortisol.
Sun exposure?
Yeah, think about how you feel when you're outside on a sunny day, maybe on vacation at the beach. That sense of calm.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
relaxing.
Part of that feeling is the sun actually helping to lower your cortisol levels. And often, that relaxation makes you feel sleepy, which loops right back to sleep being important.
Huh. It all connects. And vitamin D is part of the sun picture, too. Absolutely. Vitamin D3 specifically is mentioned as helping lower cortisol. And the guidance is pretty practical. If you get about, say, 15 to 20 minutes of good sun exposure most days, your body probably makes enough D.
Okay.
You might not need a supplement then.
But what about cloudy days? Or winter? Or if you live somewhere with less sun?
Good question. On those days, the recommendation is to supplement with vitamin D3. But, and this is really crucial, the material stresses this, if you take a higher dose, like around 10,000 international units, or IUs, daily, you absolutely must take it with vitamin K2.
K2? Why is that?
It's apparently quite complex, the whole K2 thing, but it's essential for making sure calcium goes where it's supposed to when you're taking high-dose D3. Taking that much D3 without K2 is flagged as a potentially bad move.
Wow, okay. Good to know. High D3 needs K2.
Got it.
So sleep, eating patterns, sun, or D3 with K2. What about exercise? Does that help?
It does, but maybe not the way you'd think. The material is very specific.
Yeah.
Walking seems to be much better than pretty much any other exercise if your main goal is lowering cortisol.
Just walking, not like running or hitting the gym hard?
Apparently not. Intense exercise can actually spike cortisol temporarily, but walking, especially longer walks, is described as therapeutic. It gives you space, helps you decompress mentally. That directly counters the stress response.
Interesting. So a long, calming walk beats a grueling workout for cortisol. What about other techniques, maybe more hands-on?
Acupressure gets a mention. The idea presented is that stress isn't just mental. It kind of builds up physically in the body. And sometimes you need ways to physically release it or extract it. Acupressure is suggested as one way to help do that, which can then help the body relax and improve sleep. So again, it ties back to sleep.
Thinking of stress as physically stuck.
Yeah.
Interesting concept. Okay, let's shift to nutrients. Are there specific vitamins or minerals that are extra important?
Definitely. Potassium is highlighted as essential, really essential. The body needs a lot, 4,700 milligrams a day.
4,700. How much is that in real food?
Well, the source gives an example. It's roughly the amount in about 7 to 10 cups of salad a day.
7 to 10 cups. Wow. Okay, that's a lot of salad. Why is potassium so important for stress?
Because potassium is vital for your parasympathetic nervous system. That's your rest and digest system, the calming one.
The opposite of fight or flight.
Exactly. It's the anti-stress system.
Yeah.
So getting enough potassium basically strengthens your body's natural ability to calm down and counter cortisol.
Powerful connection. Potassium helps you chill out, basically. What else?
Vitamin B1 is also flagged as very important. And the material makes a point of saying get it from nutritional yeast.
Nutritional yeast, not just a B vitamin pill.
Apparently, the natural form in nutritional yeast is much better, more bioavailable. Avoid the synthetic stuff is the message.
Okay, nutritional yeast. I know some people use that for a cheesy flavor. How would you suggest getting it in?
Yeah, you could mix a teaspoon or tablespoon into plain yogurt or kefir. If you really don't like the taste, mixing it into peanut butter or maybe applesauce could work to mask it.
Good tips. And one more nutrient mentioned, calcium.
Yeah, a little bit of calcium before bed might help you sleep better, but the type matters.
Okay.
It specifically recommends calcium citrate or calcium lactate, and it strongly advises against using calcium carbonate. Calls it a very bad one.
Calcium carbonate, isn't that the most common one, like in antacids?
Often, yes, but apparently not the best choice for this purpose. The idea is the right type of calcium supports sleep, and better sleep means better cortisol levels.
So it all circles back. Key nutrients, loads of potassium, B1 from nutritional yeast. The right kind of calcium, they all help, whether by boosting the calming nervous system or improving sleep.
Pretty much. Those are the main things the material suggests you can do. But then there's the flip side, things to avoid.
Right. And this part seems, I don't know, particularly relevant today.
I think so too. High on the list is actively avoiding stressful environments and maybe even more pointedly, stressful people.
Yeah.
The sources talk about how damaging it can be to constantly be around negative people or those who are kind of subtly hostile, the ones who just drain you.
That hits home. It sounds simple, avoid stressful people, but man, that can be incredibly difficult to actually do sometimes.
It really can be. But the material hammers this point. Consciously managing your environment, and that includes the people in it, is critical. If your job or your living situation or key relationships are just a constant source of stress,
Yeah.
it keeps that fight or flight system switched on, even at a low level. And that makes it incredibly hard to lower cortisol no matter how well you're sleeping or eating or walking.
It's like you're constantly paddling upstream, trying to lower cortisol while something else is constantly jacking it up.
Exactly. You're bailing water out of a boat that still has a leak. You can do all the right things, but if that underlying chronic stressor, especially from your environment or interactions, is still there, the load on your system is just too high.
So dealing with those toxic situations or relationships isn't just like nice to have for mental health. It's physiologically important for cortisol.
Fundamental, according to this material. Not optional.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. We've dived into cortisol, this key stress hormone linked to belly fat, energy, aging, tied into that declining growth hormone. And we've talked about actions we can take. Prioritize real sleep, structure eating to help GH and IGF get sun, or use D3 with K2, choose walking, maybe try acupressure.
And boosting key nutrients. Lots of potassium, B1 from nutritional yeast, specific calciums for sleep.
Right. But just as vital, maybe more so, is actively reducing exposure to major stressors, especially those draining people and environments.
And the cool thing is, it's not about finding one magic bullet. It's presented as supporting your body's natural recovery systems. Sleep, food timing, sunlight, movement, nutrients, stress release.
And consciously stepping away from the things that constantly trigger the stress in the first place.
Yeah. And why does all this matter to you, listening? Because these aren't just theories. They're potential tools, practical steps suggested by this material to tackle things like stubborn fat, low energy, feeling overwhelmed, especially as we get older.
It gives you a sense of agency, doesn't it? That these foundational things can actually influence your hormones.
Definitely. It's about potentially reclaiming some balance.
So thinking about all this, the power of sleep, sunlight, potassium, even just stepping back from stressful interactions. Here's something to mull over. How might focusing on just one or two of these things, really integrating them into your daily life, start to change your relationship with stress?
It's a good question to reflect on.
Definitely something to think about. And hey, if you found this deep dive helpful, if it gave you some food for thought, please do take a second to like it and subscribe to the channel.
Yeah, it really helps get these kinds of insights out to more people who might benefit.
Absolutely. Thanks for tuning in.